Thanks for tuning into the Jurassic Park-Cast, the Jurassic Park podcast where guests chat with me about Michael Crichton's 1990 novel Jurassic Park, and also not that too. A big shout out to Christoph Oakes of Snail. A big thank you to him for letting me use his band's music to score this podcast. You can find his music on Spotify and Bandcamp. Today's intro is from the song Buzzsaw Party Boy from Snail's second album Charlemagne, and the outro is Sleepyhead from Snail's debut album Snail. In this quick excerpt from episode 71, I offer a couple observations that suggest that you can detect a revision in Crichton's manuscript, and the edits in the final draft weren't ironed out entirely. See what you think about this. So here's an essay topic that I'm calling Stitches and Seams in the Text. Crichton reportedly had been working on different drafts of this novel, Jurassic Park, for the better part of the 1980s, beginning with apparently the story of a boy who was cloning a pterosaur, which expanded into the terrific adventure that we received. And I think there are stitches and seams from the old versions of this novel visible in the finished product. There might be a bunch, but there is one element that I'm pretty sure was changed, but all the edits to update the final manuscript weren't completed. So hear me out on this one and let me know what you think. In the final novel, there is a hadrosaur stampede, and the big Rex catches a hadrosaur and eats it, and later becomes protective of its kill. And I think this was originally written to be an apatosaurus, not a hadrosaur, that was killed, and here's why I think that. To start, Crichton introduces the idea that the big Rex wants to kill apatosaurs in the chapter Big Rex. Quote, "Maybe he's down hunting apatosaurs," Grant said. Regis laughed, his voice tinny over the radio. "He would if he could, believe me," we're told on page 144. "Sometimes he stands by the lagoon and stares at those animals and wiggles those little forearms of his in frustration, but the T-Rex territory is completely enclosed with trenches and fences. They're disguised from view, but believe me, he can't go anywhere," on page 145. So, it is set up. The big Rex would love to chase down some sauropods, but he is frustrated. Then, the concept of the Rex attacking sauropods continues in the chapter The Park. "Huh," Arnold said. "Looks like the Rex went into the sauropod paddock." Muldoon said, "Fine dining tonight." "How many sauropods would the Rex kill?" Hammond said, pacing around the control room. "Probably just one," Harding said. "Sauropods are big. The Rex can feed off a single kill for several days," on page 250. Then, imagine an early draft of the Jurassic Park manuscript where the big Rex attacks the sauropods and kills one. Just imagine that happened, okay? Because after the stampede, just 17 pages later, and suddenly they heard an answering roar floating across the water towards them. This is when they're on the lagoon. Looking back, Grant saw the juvenile T-Rex on the shore, crouched over the killed sauropod, claiming the kill as its own. The juvenile slashed at the carcass, then raised its head high and bellowed. The big Tyrannosaur saw it too, and the response was immediate. It turned back to protect its kill, swimming strongly toward the shore on 267. Okay, yes, called the dead hadrosaur a sauropod. Perhaps that's a one-time mistake. Nothing to really start developing theories over, right? Well, Crichton doesn't stop there. Quote, "The big Tyrannosaur chased it, racing past the dead sauropod, disappearing over the hill. They heard its final threatening bellow, and then the raft moved to the north, around a bend in the lagoon to the river on 268. I'd initially considered that this was Crichton's mistake, that he wasn't clear on the terms hadrosaur and sauropod, and may have been too unfamiliar with these words and perhaps used them incorrectly. But, reconsidering that this whole bit may have been rewritten, perhaps the terms aren't wrong, they just weren't updated with the edits. That sort of makes more sense if you ask me. If the big Rex was originally envisioned tackling a big apatosaurus in an early draft of the novel, and at some point, as the story was switched from a boy who clones pterosaurs to Alan Grant visiting Jurassic Park, well, Grant's character was being fleshed out. Perhaps all the Maiasaura details, famously based on the discoveries of Jack Horner, compelled Crichton to add Maiasaura to the story, and that had repercussions, through the novel. And as these updates are being made, the big Rex doesn't catch a sauropod anymore, but instead a hadrosaur, a Maiasaura. But oops, looks like some of the terms just didn't get edited in the final draft to agree with the changes. Does that sound realistic to you? They make some sense of the Tyrannosaur wiggling its arms in frustration, and there being dialogue about how much it wants to catch sauropods, and why the hadrosaur carcass is being referred to, more than once, as a sauropod carcass. But it's just a theory. What do you think? Or maybe have you spotted other areas in the novel you think might be snafus in the editing process? Let me know. Alright, a big thanks to you for tuning in. If you're interested in more of the podcast, you can find it wherever podcasts are. And just look for Jurassic Park-Cast, include those hyphens, or Jurassic Park Podcast, that might work too. And if you like this video, you can subscribe and receive notifications when a new one is available, because there is a lot more to come. Until next time.